Hello and welcome to Solution Design. This is Module 4 of your certificate program. This is called Entrepreneurial Leadership, and this is your Week 1 or Module 1 course overview. And what I wanted to do was put a video overview together for you just to give you a 10,000 foot view of where we're going with Module 1. So let's go ahead and jump into the components for it so that I can walk you through specifically what we've got in front of us, what you get to play with this week. So this is an exciting program we've designed for you, Solution Design, and the certificate program has got the component that you're in right now called Entrepreneurial Leadership. And in this Entrepreneurial Leadership module, what we're going to do is we're going to explore entrepreneurship on a lot of different levels. The personal level, the organizational level, the design thinking level, what it means for you to have meaningful conversations not only with yourselves, but with a survey type of environment in identifying an entrepreneur to interview. And we're going to have you working with a Canvas lean, I'll call it module, that gives you the ability to take an entrepreneurial idea and then to fully develop it into that Canvas template. Let's go ahead and just jump in, and I'll start right next to me. You'll see Complete Survey, the Entrepreneurship Survey. You're going to have a set of download instructions that I need you to go into the assignment. Pull up the download instructions. They will send you to a specific website. That website has the opportunity for you to take a free, no cost to you, I'll call it entrepreneurship survey, to give yourself a personal view of what you look like. So in the second page of the instructions, there's information on how to log in. There's information on what type of data you're going to get. I need you to go ahead and complete all of the instructions for this, and it's going to map you in 4 quadrants. And we'll have more information for you on the results after you complete it, but you need to complete that. Take the data results that you've got and submit those on the template that's provided for you. Now, in addition to that, this week, in week 1, we've got a recorded lecture for you, and that recorded lecture is based upon, I'll call it 1 author but 3 books. So there's a gentleman that we've identified for you that I've gone ahead and pulled the information or gleaned the information out of these books. And what you're going to have is you're going to have a recorded lecture that you can go in and look at any time, but my recommendation is to look at specifically this one in week 1, and it's called Creating Radically Successful Entrepreneurial Businesses, because this is the start of your mindset. This is how we're going to start to create that entrepreneurial thinking for you, especially from a leadership perspective. So there's a great recorded lecture for you over there on these 3 books. In addition to that, on Wednesday, there's going to be a week 1 Zoom live lecture. So Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be conducting a live lecture. And during that live lecture, we're going to go over specific material. And that specific material we're going to be covering is deciding to become an entrepreneur. And I'm going to walk you through all of the phases of that. Now, you're going to see also that down below that specific Zoom lecture icon, you're going to see that we also have a discussion activity, or a series of discussion activities. You'll have 2 of them this week, and they're based on that philosophy of deciding to become an entrepreneur. And the areas that you're going to be exploring are going to be, why do people become entrepreneurs, and the entrepreneurial process. So we're going to fully explore those. Those will be the areas that our discussion activity is going to take you in. And remember, there are 2 different discussion activities. To get full credit for the points for this module, you must engage 3 times on 3 separate days in each of those to get full credit for that. Now, in addition to that, off to the side of the discussion activities, you're going to see that you've got 2 textbooks. And those 2 textbooks are the Entrepreneurial Mind and the Harvard Business Review Entrepreneur's Handbook. The Entrepreneur Mind was written by a gentleman named Johnson, who's got a tremendous amount of information for you. It's 100 basically short stories, epiphanies, opportunities to learn from. It's got a lot of hints and key areas that we want you to read through. You're going to find a lot of, I'll call it hidden nuggets of gold from an entrepreneurship standpoint in here. Then in addition to that, you've got the HBR book, the Entrepreneur's Handbook. And this walks you from a process standpoint all the way through all of the stages for an entrepreneur. Starting from, the mindset from an entrepreneur, so that innovation and that entrepreneurial thinking, all the way through the business case, all the way getting to the point where you're trying to sustain a entrepreneurial activity, whether that's an experiment as they refer to it or an enterprise. So you'll get exposed to a lot of different new terminology, which is going to be exciting for you. Now, as we move to the middle of the screen, you're going to see your entrepreneur interview. So in week 1, and there are going to be 3 different phases, but in week 1, I need you to identify a candidate, someone that you would want to do an interview with that's an entrepreneur. And this interview can be done over the phone. This interview can be done a variety of different ways. It can be done in person. You can submit questions to somebody that you've got authority to actually interview, but there will be an acceptance form that you will need to have them sign. And week 1's assignment is to identify who that candidate's going to be. Who do you want to do this? And you have to submit that form, that acknowledgement form that they're willing to be interviewed. And that's your week 1 assignment under the entrepreneur interview area. Now remember, there's 3 different areas for this. So once you identify the candidate, next week you're going to identify the questions. The 3rd week you're going to actually conduct the interview and post the results of it. And we will be discussing those in week 4. So you'll see that everything we're doing is going to be building upon our discussion activities. Now, let's go ahead and go over to the entrepreneurial leadership assignment that you have. So I have not put you in teams. I've kept you as separate entrepreneurial leaders. You're going to be working for your own team. You've created your own company, and that company has been selected by ABOD. ABOD is a entrepreneurial, I'll call it, challenge that became available about 4 or 5 years ago. And the ABOD challenge was to create a shelter. So there were 3 phases to it. One was to create a shelter, one shelter that could house one family that could be assembled in one day. That's what the challenge was. And there were a ton of different organizations and volunteer groups that went out to try to find a way to create this. And there are a lot of, I'll call it, design solutions that are already there for you, and you're going to find those. So go pull up the assignment instructions, and you're going to see it's going to drive you into at least 3, possibly 4 different directions. The first direction is going to be background history on ABOD. What the history of it is, who the people are that are running it, where it's functioning. You're going to find out that there are some problems associated with the design solutions that they've come up with, because trying to put a shelter together in one day with a group of people in the desert is very different from trying to do it in a jungle environment or in a rural environment with no roads. So there's a lot of different challenges that they've had. They've been successful in the portion of the ABOD shelter portion of it, but we're adding a new feature to it, and that new feature is going to be an additional challenge, which is to build this in one day with one tool. So your portion where you come in is you're leading a team, and that team has come up with a Kickstarter new design, and that new design is going to be based upon, and we've driven you to the Kickstarter website, some features that are very similar to another type of tool that's out there. And we're going to ask you to add some additional functionality to that tool, and then you're going to be putting together a lean canvas template on that new Kickstarter idea. You will have to go out and research information on multifunction tools. You'll have to look at these multi-purpose tools and say, what additional functionality could I add to the tool that we being you and your team, are going to put together. So there's research involved, and then you're going to basically take that lean canvas template that we've provided you, and you're going to get an opportunity to do sections 1 and sections 2. Section 1 all the way over to the left, and you'll be able to see it in the Canvas template when you pull it up, is going to be on the problem. What are the problems? And then the other piece of it is going to be customers and solutions. So you're gonna work this in different ways, and by that I mean there are 9 different areas that we're going to be pulling at in this this particular, I'll call it assignment. You're going to see a section, at least 2, possibly 3, that you'll be responsible for completing every week. And then in addition to that, on week 4, you're going to do an elevator pitch. So you'll actually record an elevator pitch and provide that to me, describing your tool, why your team should be selected, why your entrepreneurial idea, and why your, I'll call it, organization or company that you've put together is the one that should be selected for the Kickstarter funding that is going to allow you to continue moving on to creating a new product. Now, the final thing that you're going to have is every week you're going to have a series of case studies. So week 1 you'll have a case study. Week 2, week 3, and week 4. There are only 4 case studies required, but what we've done is we've given you 8 different case studies to select from. So you can go into the palette of case studies that we've identified for you here, and you can select one of them to do in week 1. Now in week 2 you would select a different one, week 3 another one, week 4 another one. All of these case studies are on entrepreneurial efforts. They run from manufacturing to aircraft design to sustainability in certain areas for medical devices. There's a good palette of entrepreneurial areas that you can explore through each one of these case studies. And each case study, you're going to use 2 different tool sets. One is going to be the 5 W's, where you ask the 5 W's of and fill out all the 5 W's for the case study. And in the instructions for the case study, you'll see a complete set of templates for you. All the assignment instructions are loaded for you there. And then ultimately there's a series of questions, 5 different steps that you're going to answer, and you're going to answer those based upon that case study you complete. So you can see that week 1 has got a lot of features to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. Everything is going to build upon. This week is the starting week. Next week is going to build on this week. By the time we're done with the 4 modules, you will have a solid understanding not only of solution design, but of entrepreneurial leadership, and you will have personal hands-on experience with where your skill sets are from an entrepreneur's perspective. You'll get that feedback from the survey, and as you move through this, you'll start to understand the steps from a leadership perspective required to be able to lead an entrepreneurial effort. Listen, you have a great week, and I will talk to you later. Feel free to contact me with any questions, issues, or concerns you've got as we move through the material. Have a great week 1. Goodbye.